I'm Jessica Morgan, 32 years old, and I stood frozen at my sister Rachel's engagement dinner when her fiancé looked at me across the candlelit table and said quietly, "You're the judge here tonight. Tell everyone what really happened 5 years ago." Rachel had just laughed at my job in front of the whole family, said I judged other people's families because I couldn't have one of my own. My hands were still on my fork, my heart somewhere in my throat. No one moved, not even my parents. And in that silence, the life I'd carefully built began to unravel. Before I go any further, let me know where you're listening from in the comments and hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever had to choose between protecting your family and telling the truth. I was the older sister, the quiet one who followed the rules, studied late, brought home report cards with gold stars, and helped wash the dishes without being asked. Rachel came 2 years later. Loud, beautiful, always a little wild if I was the steady one she was, the spark. She got away with everything. Curfew, broken classes skipped, boyfriends who were too old or too fast. My parents called her spirited. They called me capable. Rachel crashed through life with charm, and I held my breath, hoping she wouldn't take me down with her. I went to college on scholarships and side jobs. I didn't ask my parents for a dime. They were saving their money for Rachel because she might need it more. That's what they said. I got through law school near the top of my class, passed the bar the first time, got hired at a family law firm. By the time I turned 29, I'd been appointed as one of the youngest family court judges in our state. Rachel called the day she found out, laughed and said, "Wow, so you sit up there in that robe and judge people. Now that's so you miss perfect." After that, it became a game at Thanksgiving. She asked if I'd destroyed any families lately at Christmas. She told her friends, I couldn't cut it as a lawyer, so I put on a black robe and played pretend. "Judge," my parents would laugh, say, "Jessica, lighten up. She's only teasing." But they didn't know what I knew, what had happened 5 years earlier. They didn't know what I lost 5 years ago. My sister called me in the middle of the night, slurring her words, sobbing, begging me not to tell Mom and Dad. The motel where I found her reeked of chemicals and vodka. Rachel's face was swollen, her eye nearly shut. But that wasn't the worst part. There was a child, a little girl, maybe 2, huddled in the corner with a stuffed bear so worn it barely held together. Her name was Lily, and she was Rachel's daughter. I took custody that night. Without hesitation, Lily came home with me. She was malnourished, scared, barely spoke. I rearranged my whole life for her, and I would have kept her forever. But after 8 months, Rachel showed up clean with a new boyfriend and a new plan. She wanted her daughter back by law. I couldn't stop her. I had no rights, and I believed her when she said she'd changed. Helped make the transition gentle for Lily. And when they moved across the country, Rachel promised to keep in touch, video calls every weekend, pictures every month. She lasted 3, maybe 4, then nothing. I never stopped wondering where Lily was or how she was doing. I thought maybe she had a real family now. Maybe Rachel had finally become the mother she swore she'd be. But that night at the engagement dinner, when Marcus looked at me with something hard behind his eyes, I knew something was wrong. I just didn't know how wrong. The morning after Rachel's engagement dinner, I stayed in bed longer than usual. My phone buzzed repeatedly on the nightstand, but I couldn't bring myself to look. I already knew what the messages would say, my parents defending Rachel, blaming me for causing a scene. I finally sat up and reached for it when the 6th call came through. My mother's name was on the screen. I answered, bracing myself. Her voice was tight. "Jessica, we need to talk about what you did last night." I waited a beat before responding. "What I did? You humiliated your sister in front of everyone," she said. "You aired private family business that didn't need to be shared. Rachel is devastated." I stood up and walked to the kitchen as she continued. I needed space just to hear myself think. "Rachel abandoned her child," I said. "She left Lily with a man who wasn't her father. Lily ended up in foster care. And you're mad at me. We just want peace in the family," she said, quieter now. "Maybe if you could apologize to Rachel, try to repair things." I closed my eyes, steadying my voice. "I'm not apologizing for telling the truth. The only thing I care about right now is finding Lily." I ended the call before she could reply. My hands trembled as I set the phone down. I'd spent years protecting Rachel, trying to keep the peace. That morning was the first time I chose to protect myself instead, and more importantly, to protect Lily if I still could. That afternoon, I met Marcus at a quiet cafe on the edge of town. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept. We sat in a corner booth away from the windows. "Thanks for meeting me," I said. "Of course," he replied. "How are you holding up?" I gave a dry laugh. "My mother asked me to apologize to Rachel." Marcus shook his head. "That's hard to hear." "I'm sorry. She's always been their favorite," I said. "It's like I was born with a job description fix, everything keep it quiet." "I'm starting to understand that," he said. "I've been thinking about things she's said over the years. Stories that didn't quite add up. I feel like I missed so much." "You weren't supposed to see it," I said. "Rachel's very good at telling people what they want to hear." Marcus nodded slowly. "I told you I'd try to help. I spoke to someone I know at Child Protective Services. She's looking into Lily's file. It might take a couple days." "Thank you," I said. "I know this puts you in a tough spot." "I don't know what's going to happen with Rachel and me," he said, "but I couldn't go into a marriage built on lies." I didn't respond. We both sat for a moment in silence. Then he looked at me closely. "Are you prepared for what we might find?" he asked. "Lily might not remember you. I've thought about that," I said. "If she's safe and happy, I won't disrupt her life. But if she's still in the system," he nodded, "then you'll do what you have to do." 3 days later, Marcus called. His contact had found Lily. She was still in foster care, moved between homes 4 times in the last 3 years. Her current placement was with a woman named Eleanor Reed, a foster mother who specialized in children with emotional and behavioral needs. I took the next day off from work and drove across town to Eleanor's house. It was a small ranch-style home with a white fence and a basketball hoop in the driveway. Toys were scattered in the grass. I parked and sat for a few minutes trying to calm my nerves. Then I walked to the door and rang the bell. A woman in her 50s answered. She wore jeans and a green sweatshirt, her short hair tucked behind her ears. She gave me a long, thoughtful look. "Eleanor Reed," I asked. "I'm Jessica Morgan. I called earlier about Lily." She nodded. "Yes, come in." She led me into a tidy living room with a brown couch and bookshelves lined with children's puzzles and games. She gestured for me to sit. "Lily's at school," she said. "She'll be home in about an hour. I thought we should talk first." "How is she?" I asked. Eleanor folded her hands in her lap. "She's bright, observant, but guarded. She has trust issues, understandably so. Has she ever talked about me?" I asked, "or about her early years?" "Not much," Eleanor said, "but she does mention an Aunt Jessie sometimes. Someone who used to sing her songs, someone who made her feel safe." I swallowed hard. "That was me." Eleanor's voice softened. "I figured." I nodded. "I'd like to reconnect, if that's okay with her. I know I have no rights, not yet." Eleanor leaned forward slightly. "What are you hoping for long term?" "I want to do what's best for Lily," I said. "If she's bonded with you, I won't take her away. But if she's open to it, I'd like to pursue custody. I never stopped loving her." Eleanor studied me for a long moment. Then she nodded. "I appreciate your honesty. That goes a long way." We heard the front door open, followed by children's voices. Eleanor stood. "I'll talk to her first," she said. "Then I'll bring her in." I waited, heart pounding. I heard footsteps down the hall, a whispered exchange. Then the door opened again. Lily stood beside Eleanor, half hidden behind her. She was taller, her hair darker, her face older. "But I would have known her anywhere." "This is Jessica," Eleanor said gently. "She says she's your aunt." "Do you remember her?" Lily looked at me for a long time. Then she said, "Aunt Jessie?" I nodded. "You used to sing the dinosaur song," she said. "The one about the nightlight." "That's right," I said. She stepped into the room slowly. "I thought you were gone." "I never wanted to leave you," I said. "I always hoped I'd find you again." She looked at Eleanor, then back at me. "She said you want to visit me." "If that's okay with you," I said. Lily shrugged, but there was a flicker in her eyes. "I guess." Our first visit was short. We talked about school, about her favorite book, about her drawings. When I got up to leave, she asked, "Can you come back tomorrow?" "If Miss Ellie says it's okay," I said. Eleanor nodded. "We'd be glad to have you." I returned the next day, and the next. Over the next few weeks, I rearranged my schedule to spend as much time with Lily as I could. She was cautious but curious, and slowly she let herself be close. Marcus and I met during this time to build a legal plan. Your previous guardianship will help, he said. So will your career stability. The hard part will be explaining the gap. I thought Rachel had changed, I said. By the time I realized something was wrong, it was too late. We'll tell the truth, Marcus said. It's your strongest argument. I nodded. What about Rachel? He hesitated. She's angry. She's calling it a betrayal. She said she'll fight. I expected that. There's more, he added. Rachel's been receiving child support from James the entire time Lily was in foster care. I stared at him. She's been cashing checks for a child she didn't raise. She never told James. Lily wasn't with her anymore. I closed my eyes. That's fraud. It is, and it matters. As Lily's smile grew more natural and our bond deepened, I knew the time had come. Filing for custody would change everything, my relationship with Rachel, maybe even with my parents. But I couldn't let fear dictate this decision. I filed the petition on a Thursday morning. That night, Rachel left me a voicemail. You're going to regret this, she said. I played it once, then I deleted it. I had no regrets. Not this time. When I told Lily I'd be back the next day, she nodded without saying much. But when I knocked on Eleanor's door that evening, she was already waiting near the window. She waved as soon as she saw me. Dinner was spaghetti and garlic bread. Lily helped set the table while Eleanor stirred the sauce. We sat together, the three of us, like it was something we'd always done. Lily talked more than the day before about school, about her favorite teacher, about a girl in her class who wore glittery shoes every day. After dinner, we moved to the living room. Lily showed me a puzzle she was working on. She asked if I remembered how she used to make up songs about dinosaurs. I said I did. She looked up at me and asked, "Why did you go away?" Eleanor gave me a quiet look but didn't speak. I sat down beside Lily and answered as simply as I could. I didn't want to, I said. I thought you were going to be safe. I was wrong. I should have come sooner. Lily didn't say anything right away. She went back to the puzzle and moved one piece into place. The next week, I came by 3 times, then 4. On Saturdays, we went to the park. On Sundays, I brought art supplies and we painted in the backyard. Some days were harder than others. Lily had trouble when plans changed. If I arrived 5 minutes late, she'd shut down or lash out. But she always came back slowly, cautiously, like she was testing to see if I'd still be there. I met with Marcus the following Thursday at a small office near the courthouse. He had brought a manila folder full of documents. Across the top was my name and Lily's. You're doing everything right, he said. Visitation consistency support. It's building your case. What's the next step, I asked. We'll submit the petition formally by the end of the month, he said. Then we prepare for a hearing. What about Rachel, I asked. Marcus leaned back in his chair. She's angry. She's accusing you of stealing her daughter. She says you're using your position as a judge to go after her. I looked at the folder on the table. And the child support payments. Still happening, he said. James has been sending them monthly for over 3 years. Rachel never told him Lily was in foster care. I rubbed my forehead. Does Lily know anything about that? Marcus shook his head. Not yet. It might come up later if Rachel tries to fight back. That night, I sat in bed reading through state guidelines for kinship custody. I bookmarked a few case studies, highlighted others. I wasn't trying to win a case. I was trying to understand what Lily needed, how to support her, how to protect her long term. The following weekend, Eleanor and I met on the back porch after Lily went inside to color. I asked if she'd noticed any changes. She's smiling more, Eleanor said. She still has her walls, but they're not as high. She trusts you. I want to do this the right way, I said. For Lily's sake, I don't want to rush her. You're doing fine, Eleanor said. She's doing better than I've ever seen her. On Monday, I met with David Kaufman, the attorney I'd hired to represent me in court. He'd worked in family law for over 15 years and knew the system inside and out. She's your niece, he said, flipping through the paperwork. You had temporary custody. You have a stable home, a steady income, and you've resumed contact in a healthy, supervised environment. We've got a strong case. What about the time gap, I asked. "That's the one piece we'll have to explain carefully," he said. "But your reasoning holds. You believed Rachel had turned a corner, that she was capable. That's not neglect. That's trust." He tapped his pen once on the folder. "You're not going to court to tear someone down. You're going to provide a better future for a child who needs you." We filed the petition the following week. Rachel responded within days. I got a voicemail first, then 3 texts, then a formal response from her lawyer, Stuart Reynolds. He accused me of undermining the family. He claimed Rachel had always planned to bring Lily home once she was emotionally ready. He alleged that my presence was destabilizing. Eleanor received a call as well, asking her to stop the visits. She refused. Rachel attended only 2 of the supervised sessions with Lily. At the first, she arrived late and brought an armful of toys and snacks. She hugged Lily too tightly and asked if she missed her. Lily didn't answer. Halfway through, Rachel got frustrated and raised her voice. The court-appointed monitor ended the session early. At the second visit, Rachel showed up distracted and impatient. She spoke mostly to the monitor. Lily sat across the room with her hands in her lap. That session ended early, too. She missed the next 3 visits altogether. By now, my parents had started visiting Lily on weekends. My mother brought books, my father brought puzzles. They sat with her in the living room and asked about school, about her drawings. It was stiff at first, but Lily warmed to them over time. One Saturday after they left, Lily asked if they were my mom and dad. I said yes. "Are they my grandparents?" she asked. "If you want them to be," I said. She nodded and went back to her coloring book. That night, Eleanor called me after Lily went to bed. She asked if you were going to stay, she said. She asked if you were going to disappear like before. "I'm not," I said. I told her that Eleanor replied, "I just thought you should know." I sat with that for a long time, the weight of it, the truth of what Lily had learned to expect, and how far we still had to go. The court set a hearing date for late spring. David and I prepared everything: documentation, witness statements, records from Eleanor, evaluations from Lily's therapist. Marcus helped compile the child support data and tracked Rachel's missed appointments. Patricia Chun, the guardian ad litem, conducted a full home study and included it in the packet. At the final prep meeting, David asked if I had any last concerns. "Just one," I said. "If Lily has to testify." "She won't," he said. "We'll shield her from that. The judge will rely on expert testimony and reports." I exhaled. Good. As the date approached, Eleanor reduced Lily's extracurricular activities to limit disruptions. I rescheduled court hearings to free up time. My parents offered to be there. I said they could sit in the gallery. Marcus promised he'd come too. 2 nights before the hearing, I received a message from Rachel. "I want to talk." I didn't answer. I let it sit overnight. The next morning, she called again. I let it go to voicemail. Then she texted, "Please, just 5 minutes." I replied with a single sentence. "At the cafe near my apartment. 1 hour. She arrived 5 minutes late. No makeup. Hair pulled back. She looked tired, but not fragile. She sat across from me without saying anything for a while. "I want to make a deal," she finally said. "You drop the case. I'll fix things with Mom and Dad. We'll tell them it was all a misunderstanding." I stared at her. "That's not what this is about. It's about family," she said. "It's about Lily," I said, "and what she needs." "I'm her mother," Rachel said. "You haven't acted like one." She looked away. "You'll regret this." I stood to leave. I already regret not doing it sooner. Rachel didn't follow me. That afternoon, I sat with Lily on the back porch. She was drawing a treehouse. She looked up and asked, "Are we still going to court?" "Yes," I said, "but you don't have to worry. I'll be there the whole time." She nodded. "Okay." Then she went back to coloring. The hearing was scheduled for a Monday morning. I arrived early, dressed in a navy blue suit, my case files neatly organized in a leather briefcase. The courtroom felt different from the ones I presided over, familiar, yet distant. The wood-paneled walls, the rows of worn chairs, the quiet shuffle of people finding their seats. This time I was seated at the petitioner's table, not behind the bench. David Kaufman sat beside me, calm and composed. Marcus slipped into a seat behind us, offering a small nod when I glanced back. My parents entered a few minutes later and chose seats in the middle of the gallery, not directly behind Rachel. It didn't go unnoticed. Rachel walked in just before the judge. Her attorney, Stuart Reynolds, carried a thick folder and a silver pen. Rachel wore a gray dress, and her expression was carefully arranged. She didn't look at me. Judge Harriet Wilson entered at exactly 9 hours. We all stood as the bailiff called the room to order. When we sat again, the judge looked out over her glasses and began the proceedings. "We're here in the matter of Morgan versus Morgan," she said, "a petition for legal and physical custody of the minor child Lily Morgan. Are all parties present and prepared to proceed? Both attorneys confirmed." The hearing began. David presented our case first. He outlined the history, my temporary custody of Lily, the months she spent in my care, and the decision to return her to Rachel based on her recovery at the time. He described Rachel's abandonment, Lily's time in foster care, and our recent reconnection. Then Eleanor Reed was called to testify. She sat calmly under oath, hands folded on her lap. "In your time fostering Lily," David asked, "what changes have you observed since Jessica Morgan re-entered her life?" Eleanor nodded slowly. "Lily's more open. She has fewer behavioral incidents. She talks about her feelings more. There's still work to do, but she's building trust." "Do you believe it would be in Lily's best interest to remain in Ms. Morgan's care permanently?" "Yes," Eleanor said. "Jessica has shown patience, consistency, and deep care for Lily's emotional well-being." Stuart Reynolds cross-examined. He pressed Eleanor about Lily's tantrums, about her tendency to withdraw. He implied I might be reinforcing separation from her biological mother. Eleanor kept her answers clear and grounded. "What Lily needs isn't someone with the right title. She needs someone who shows up." Next, Marcus testified. He explained how he'd come across Lily's case while researching unrelated files at the prosecutor's office. He spoke to Rachel's prior history, her misstatements, and the continued child support payments she had collected despite Lily being in foster care. Reynolds questioned his objectivity. "And how would you describe your relationship with Jessica Morgan?" Marcus answered steadily. "We are friends, but my actions were based on concern for a vulnerable child, not personal loyalty." The cross-examination leaned into timing Marcus's discovery, the engagement dinner his role in bringing the matter forward. But his responses held firm. Then it was my turn. I walked to the witness box, took my oath, and sat down. David asked me to describe my history with Lily the first night I took her in the months that followed, and the day Rachel returned to claim her. I explained why I didn't fight at the time. "She was clean," I said. "She had a plan." I believed her. David asked how I found Lily again. I answered with care. "Marcus brought the information to me," I said. "He had access to files through his work. Once I learned Lily was back in the system, I filed for custody. When it was Stuart Reynolds' turn, he opened his folder and began slowly. Ms. Morgan, would you say you've often felt overlooked in your family?" "I would," I replied. "And would you say your sister Rachel received more attention growing up?" "Yes." "Do you believe that contributed to your decision to pursue custody?" "No. My decision was based on Lily's needs." Reynolds tapped a document. "You didn't contact Child Services after losing touch with Rachel." "Why, I had no reason to believe Lily wasn't safe. Rachel moved across the country and stopped replying. I assumed wrongly that things were stable." He paused. "So you didn't check? You didn't follow up?" I answered quietly. "I trusted my sister. That trust was misplaced." Rachel was called next. She adjusted her dress before standing. Her voice wavered slightly as she described her struggles with addiction, her time in rehab, and the choices she made afterward. "I thought James could take care of her," she said. "He had a stable job, a good house. I wasn't in a place to be a mother again." Judge Wilson asked a few direct questions. "Were you aware that Mr. Crawford later surrendered Lily to the state?" Rachel hesitated. "Not at first. By the time I knew it was already done." "Did you notify the court or any agencies?" "No," she said. "I didn't know how. Are you still receiving child support payments?" Rachel glanced toward Stuart before replying. "Yes. Have you used those funds for Lily's benefit?" "I've saved most of it," she said, "for her future. Can you provide documentation?" "Not right now, but I could request it." Next, two of Rachel's friends were called to speak on her behalf. They said she was trying, that she had changed, that she cared deeply about her daughter. But their answers drifted into generalities, memories of better times, not specifics about Lily. Last came Dr. Sarah Mendes, Lily's therapist. She walked in with a file in hand, her voice steady as she spoke. Lily struggles with abandonment, she said. Her ability to form attachments has been delayed by multiple transitions in care. Since reconnecting with Jessica, we've seen improvement. She's starting to believe that someone might stay. David asked what would happen if she were moved again. She would likely regress. It would undo the progress we've seen. When Dr. Mendes stepped down, Judge Wilson called a recess. As we filed into the hallway, I saw Rachel speaking with her attorney, her voice tight. My mother sat on a bench, her hands clasped in her lap. My father stood near the wall, watching me but saying nothing. Marcus walked up beside me. "You did well," he said. "So did Lily's team." I nodded, though my heart was racing. We returned for closing arguments. Stuart Reynolds spoke first, painting Rachel as a mother who had stumbled but was trying to make things right. He portrayed me as overreaching, using Lily to fulfill a need that came from old wounds. Then David stood. He was measured and clear. "This case is not about who made the fewest mistakes. It is about who has consistently placed Lily's well-being above all else." He paused. "We're asking the court to grant custody, not out of punishment but out of protection. For Lily, for her chance to heal." Judge Wilson leaned forward slightly. "I will review the full record overnight. We will reconvene at 9 a.m. tomorrow for my ruling." I gathered my things. As we left the courtroom, my father stopped me in the hallway. "Jessica," he said, "can we talk?" I looked at him, unsure what he was going to say, but I followed him outside where the sun had already begun to set. My father stood just outside the courthouse entrance, one hand in his coat pocket, the other gripping a coffee cup he hadn't touched. The plaza was quiet for a Monday evening. Only the rustle of trees and the hum of a nearby street lamp filled the silence between us. "I don't know how to fix this," he said. I waited. "We made mistakes," he continued. "Your mother and I, we thought we were doing what was right at the time, but maybe we weren't watching closely enough." He looked at the sidewalk, then back at me. "Your sister told us you were trying to ruin her life. I think we wanted to believe that, because it was easier." "She left her child," I said quietly. "I know." His voice cracked. "And we didn't want to see it. You stepped in when no one else did." We stood there a while longer. Then he reached into his coat and pulled out a worn envelope. Inside was an old photograph, Rachel and me, no older than 5 and 3, sitting on our grandparents' porch steps. We were holding hands. "You were close once," he said, "before all the noise." I looked at the photo, unsure what to say. Eventually, I folded it and slipped it into my bag. "Thank you," I said. "I'll show Lily when the time is right." The next morning, I arrived at the courthouse just before 8. The courtroom door was still locked. Marcus was already waiting by the railing with 2 coffees. He handed one to me without a word. We sat in the gallery together as the room slowly filled. David arrived with his briefcase. Patricia Chun, the guardian ad litem, sat near the jury box, flipping through her notes. Eleanor came too, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Rachel entered last alongside Stuart Reynolds. She didn't look toward me. My parents came in behind her, but instead of sitting near Rachel, they took seats in the middle row again. At exactly 9, Judge Wilson entered and called the court to order. She began slowly reviewing the standard, the best interest of the child. She spoke about factors, stability, history of care, emotional attachment. She noted that every case was unique, but that the central question remained the same. Who has consistently shown up for the child? Her gaze drifted across the room. "Rachel Morgan," she said, "you have had multiple opportunities to be a consistent caregiver for your daughter. The court acknowledges the efforts you've made, but your history abandoning Lily not once but twice raises serious concerns." Rachel didn't move. Her attorney leaned forward, expression tight. "Jessica Morgan," the judge continued, "has provided stability, emotional care, and demonstrated an ongoing commitment to Lily's well-being. Testimony from both the foster parent and licensed therapist confirmed Lily has formed a secure attachment under Ms. Morgan's care." My heartbeat filled my ears. The court hereby grants full legal and physical custody of Lily Morgan to Jessica Morgan effective immediately. A wave of sound hit me. The shuffle of papers, gasps from the gallery, a quiet exhale behind me. I looked at David, who nodded once. I hadn't realized I was gripping the edge of the table until my knuckles began to ache. Judge Wilson wasn't finished. In addition, she said given the documentation regarding child support payments received during periods when Lily was not in Rachel Morgan's care, the court orders those funds be returned and placed in a trust for Lily's future education. Rachel stood suddenly. "She's my daughter, Ms. Morgan," the judge warned. "Control yourself, or you'll be held in contempt." Stuart Reynolds reached for Rachel's arm, guiding her back down into her seat. Her face was flushed, but she said nothing more. Judge Wilson's voice softened. "This ruling does not permanently sever the relationship between Rachel Morgan and her daughter. If over the next 6 months Ms. Morgan demonstrates consistent visitation and appropriate behavior, the court will review the possibility of unsupervised visits." She paused, letting her words land. "The door is not closed unless you choose to close it." With that, the gavel struck the block. The court was adjourned. The room began to empty. My legs felt slow to move, but eventually I stood. Marcus was behind me in seconds. "You did it," he said. I nodded, still unable to speak. My parents approached as I gathered my things. My father offered a small smile. My mother reached for my hand. "Congratulations," she said quietly. "We hope you'll let us be part of her life." I looked at them both, then nodded. "She'll need grandparents. And time." They stepped aside, giving me space. Rachel was already gone. Outside the courthouse, the air felt warmer than it had the day before. A breeze lifted the corner of my coat. Marcus walked me to my car. "I meant what I said," he said. "You'll be a great mother to her." "Thank you," I replied, "for standing by me." He smiled. "You stood up for her first. I just followed your lead. I drove straight to Eleanor's. Lily was waiting on the front porch, her backpack already zipped, her sneakers untied. She saw me and jumped down the steps. "Do I get to come home now?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "Today." She reached for my hand. "Did the judge say it was okay?" I bent to tie her laces. She did. "You're coming home for good." Eleanor stood in the doorway watching. She handed over a plastic bag with Lily's medication and school records. Her eyes looked damp. "Thank you," I said. "Take care of each other," she replied. "And if either of you needs anything, you know where to find me." That night, Lily explored every corner of her new room like it was a museum. She opened drawers, ran her hands across the quilt, rearranged the stuffed animals twice. "Is this really mine?" she asked. "All yours," I said, "for as long as you want it." She didn't answer right away. Then she sat on the edge of the bed, swung her legs, and looked up. "Do I still have to go to school tomorrow?" I laughed. "Yes, but you get to come back here after." She leaned back and stretched across the bed. "Okay, I guess that's fair." I tucked her in an hour later. She didn't ask for a story. She just closed her eyes and whispered, "I knew you'd come." I stayed in the hallway a long time after she fell asleep, just listening to her breathing. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time it was ours. Lily moved in the Saturday after the court ruling. She brought one small suitcase and a trash bag that held the rest of her belongings. The sight of it hit me hard. No child should have to carry their life in a garbage bag. I had painted her room a soft blue. A quilted comforter, a shelf of books, and a reading lamp shaped like a star waited for her. When she stepped inside, she didn't say anything at first. She just walked to the window, touched the edge of the curtain, then turned to me. "Is this really mine?" she asked. "It's yours," I said. "Everything in here is for you." She walked the perimeter of the room, slowly brushing her fingers along the desk, the dresser, the edges of the bed frame. Her voice was quiet when she spoke again. "I never had a room that was just mine." I smiled gently. "Well, you do now, and you get to decide how it looks, what stays, what changes. It's your space." She nodded once and set her bag down in the corner. The first week was harder than either of us expected. Lily had nightmares 3 in the first 5 nights. She'd wake up screaming, eyes wide shaking, and convinced I'd left her. I started leaving my bedroom door open and a small light on in the hallway. She'd still call for me sometimes, and each time I came, she also tested boundaries. Small things at first. Leaving food under the bed, lying about, brushing her teeth, pushing back when it was time to turn off the TV. I knew better than to take it personally. She was trying to see if I meant what I said, if I'd stay, no matter what. I read every book I could find on trauma-informed parenting. Dr. Mendes offered weekly guidance over Zoom. She reminded me that Lily's acting out was communication, not defiance. I scaled back my workload at the courthouse. I cleared my calendar for school drop-offs, therapy appointments, and bedtime routines. Some colleagues were supportive, others raised eyebrows. But I didn't waver. Lily came first now. Rachel made good on her threat to appeal the custody ruling. Within weeks, papers arrived claiming I had manipulated the court and poisoned Lily against her. She filed 3 different appeals in 4 months. The court upheld the original decision each time. 2 supervised visits were arranged during those months. Rachel showed up to both. At the first one, she brought Lily a toy pony and demanded a hug the moment they met. Lily hesitated. Rachel insisted. Within 10 minutes, Lily shut down entirely. She didn't speak for the rest of the visit. At the second one, Rachel showed up late wearing heels too high for the indoor playground the agency used for visits. She criticized Lily's haircut, asked if I was feeding her properly, then spent most of the hour on her phone. When the visit ended, Lily didn't cry. She just sat quietly in the back seat on the way home and asked if we could stop for ice cream. After that, Rachel missed the next 2 scheduled visits without notice. The agency sent reminders. She didn't respond. She moved to California shortly after. No forwarding address, no goodbye, no phone call. Lily asked about her once 2 weeks after Rachel disappeared again. "Where did Mommy go?" I sat with her on the couch, a blanket wrapped around both of us. "She had to go far away for now," I said. "Why doesn't she want to see me?" I took a deep breath. "She's dealing with things that make it hard for her to be a mom right now. It's not your fault." "Did she ever love me?" I thought for a long time before I answered. I believe she did. I believe she does. But sometimes love isn't enough to make someone ready. She didn't ask anything else that night. Just laid her head against my shoulder and fell asleep sitting up. That week she started calling me Mom. Not always. Sometimes it was still Aunt Jessie. But one evening after we'd built a blanket fort in the living room and she climbed inside with a flashlight, she handed me a drawing of 2 stick figures holding hands under a bright yellow sun. "This is me and you," she said. "Can I call you Mom?" I didn't cry in front of her. I just nodded and wrapped her up in the biggest hug I could give. "Only if you want to," I said. "I want to. Sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes." "That's perfectly okay," I told her. 6 months passed. Lily settled into school. Her teachers reported improvement. Her therapist noted progress. She joined the art club and started drawing animals with expressive eyes and long, colorful tails. My parents visited twice a month. They brought books and puzzles, helped in the garden, asked her about her drawings. They were still awkward, sometimes still unsure. But they were trying. Marcus remained close. He helped install shelves in Lily's closet, picked her up from school when I had a late docket, shared dinner with us a few times a month. He was steady, quiet, never overstepping. One evening I came home from work to find Lily at the dining room table bent over a puzzle. My father was there too, just the 2 of them. "Where's Mom?" I heard her ask. My father glanced up, surprised to see me standing in the doorway. "She'll be back in a minute," he said. "She said you're the best puzzle partner she's ever had." Lily beamed. That weekend my father stopped by alone. My mother had her book club, he said. He sat on the couch, coffee mug in hand, and asked if we could talk. "We failed both of you," he said quietly. "Me and your mother. We saw things and didn't act. We relied on you too much, expected you to be fine while we held Rachel together." He looked down at his cup. "You're a better parent than I ever was." I didn't know what to say at first. Eventually I reached across the table and placed my hand over his. "You're here now," I said. Before he left, he handed me an envelope. Inside was a photograph me and Rachel sitting on the porch as kids, arms around each other, giggling. "She wasn't always who she became," he said. And neither were we. That night I showed the picture to Lily. She studied it for a long time. "Is that you?" she asked. "That's me and Rachel," I said, "when we were your age." She didn't say anything else, just tucked the photo between the pages of a book on her nightstand. A week later, I received notice. Rachel had dropped her final appeal. She had also signed over her parental rights voluntarily. The adoption could move forward without contest. I sat with Lily at the kitchen table and explained it in simple words. No more court dates, no more uncertainty, no more supervised visits. Lily pressed the corner of the tablecloth into her palm. "Does that mean she's never coming back?" I looked at her. "I think it means she knows you're safe here and that you have a home." Lily nodded once. "Good." Then she stood up and wrapped her arms around my waist. "Can we make pancakes for dinner?" "Absolutely," I said. "We'll even add chocolate chips." That night she called me Mom and didn't follow it with anything else. The weeks after the custody decision brought a new rhythm to our lives. Lily and I settled into a routine that felt like the first real one she'd ever had. School therapy weekends with her art projects spread across the kitchen table. It was all part of building a steady home. The moments of calm gave me a chance to breathe, but the shadows of the past weren't far behind. Rachel's absence lingered like a quiet ache. Lily still asked about her, sometimes especially on the harder days. "Why doesn't Mommy come anymore?" she'd ask with those serious eyes. I'd answer gently, careful not to paint Rachel as a villain. Sometimes grown-ups have problems that keep them away. But I'm here now and I'm not going anywhere. My parents visited regularly, though the distance between us was still there, a fragile truce held in place by Lily. They tried to connect, but the wounds ran deep. I noticed my mother lingering a little longer during visits, eyes moist, but words few. My father often seemed caught between guilt and hope, unsure how to bridge the gap. Marcus stayed close through it all. His quiet support was a steady presence, helping with school runs when I was tied up fixing the squeaky door hinge Lily complained about, or just sitting quietly with us during those long evenings when exhaustion settled in. One afternoon, Marcus and I were clearing out Lily's closet, sorting through clothes and toys she'd outgrown. He paused, holding up a tattered stuffed rabbit, and smiled. "Looks like this one's been through a lot." I laughed softly. "Yeah, she's had a rough start." We fell into a comfortable silence, the kind that speaks volumes without words. The legal battles for the most part had quieted. Rachel's appeals had been exhausted. She hadn't shown much interest in supervised visits, and the court scheduled fewer as time passed. It was clear she was slowly stepping away from Lily's life, yet the tension wasn't over. One evening, just as Lily was getting ready for bed, my phone rang. It was Rachel. Her voice was low, almost tired. "I want to talk," she said. I hesitated, but agreed. We met at a small coffee shop near my apartment a few days later. Rachel looked different, less polished, more vulnerable. Her eyes searched mine, as if looking for permission to say what she needed. "I want to make a deal," she began. "If you drop the custody case, I'll make things right with Mom and Dad. We can go back to how things were." I looked at her, trying to understand what that meant. "You mean with the way things have been? You mistreating me and our parents, enabling it while Lily's been in foster care?" She shifted uncomfortably. "I'm trying to save our family." I shook my head. "This isn't about the past. It's about Lily's future." Rachel's voice cracked. "She's still my daughter. I want to be a mother to her. Being a mother isn't just biology," I said quietly. "It's showing up day after day, even when it's hard." "I can change," she pleaded. "You had 7 years," I replied. "I'm choosing to be here now." Rachel's eyes hardened. "So you're choosing a kid you barely know over your own sister, your own family." "I'm choosing what's right," I said. She grabbed my wrist, voice low. "You'll regret this. When you're all alone with a troubled kid, you'll wish you'd listened." I gently freed my wrist. "Goodbye, Rachel. I'll see you in court." Walking away, I felt a lightness I hadn't known in years. Rachel's threats held no power anymore. I was no longer the scared girl needing family approval. I was standing in my truth. The courtroom felt different on the day of the hearing. The polished wood, the judge's stern gaze, it was familiar, yet I was on the other side now. David, my attorney, was calm and prepared. Marcus sat behind me, offering quiet support. Rachel arrived late, composed but tense. Her attorney was one of the city's best. My parents took seats behind Rachel, avoiding eye contact. The judge addressed the court. This case is about the child's best interest. Stability, safety, and emotional well-being are paramount. David presented our case, my consistent care for Lily, the bond we rebuilt, and her progress in therapy. Eleanor, Lily's foster mother, spoke of Lily's trust growing her improved behavior. Rachel's attorney tried to paint me as vindictive, jealous, unable to care for a child with complex needs. When Rachel testified, she spoke of mistakes, rehab, and wanting a second chance. The judge listened carefully, weighing every word. At the end, the ruling was clear: full custody granted to me. Rachel's attorney protested, but the judge was firm. Rachel was ordered to repay child support funds received while Lily was not in her care. Supervised visitation was arranged with a possibility of unsupervised visits if Rachel showed consistent responsibility. Rachel stormed out without a word. My parents hesitated, but offered congratulations. It was not reconciliation, but a start. Marcus called me strong, but I knew it was love that kept me going. Walking out of the courthouse, I felt the weight of responsibility and the hope of a new beginning. That night, Lily surprised me with a drawing, a picture of two figures, one tall in a black robe, holding a gavel, the other small, standing under a sun. Underneath, in her careful writing, my mom, the real judge. I knelt and hugged her. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you too, Mom." The future wasn't perfect, but it was ours. And that was enough. The months that followed felt like both an ending and a beginning. Lily settled into her new life with a quiet resilience that reminded me of the girl she'd been and the woman I hoped she might become. Our days found their own pattern breakfast together, the walk-to-school evenings filled with books and puzzles and bedtime stories where I'd sing that silly dinosaur song just for her. There were still difficult moments. Lily sometimes woke from nightmares unsure if I'd still be there in the morning. On those nights, I'd hold her until she drifted off again, promising her with every gentle word that she was safe, that I wasn't going anywhere. Each time she called me Mom, the word felt more real, as if the years of uncertainty and heartbreak had finally made room for something steady and good. My parents grew into their roles as grandparents, visiting on Sundays with homemade pies and stories from the past. There were awkward silences at first, but gradually those were replaced by laughter and moments of real connection. My father apologized for old wounds, not with grand gestures, but with small acts, fixing Lily's bike, listening when she talked about school, showing up in the quiet ways I'd always longed for as a child. Marcus continued to be part of our lives, never pushing, always present. He became someone Lily trusted, someone I could lean on when the world felt overwhelming. I learned that building a family isn't about perfection, but about showing up day after day even when it's hard. As the seasons changed, so did the feeling inside our home. The tension that once filled every corner faded, replaced by a sense of peace I hadn't known I was missing. Lily's laughter filled the rooms. I started to trust that we were both healing her from years of uncertainty, me from a lifetime of feeling less than. One evening, as we finished a jigsaw puzzle together, Lily looked up and asked, "Do you think we'll always have each other?" I smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. "Yes, sweetheart. We're family now, no matter what. Sometimes life gives us a second chance, not the one we imagined, but the one we need. I've learned that real justice isn't always what happens in a courtroom. Sometimes it's the quiet courage to protect a child, the patience to forgive old hurts, and the kindness to build something new from the pieces of a broken past. If my story means anything, I hope it's a reminder that family isn't about blood or obligation, but about love chosen and earned day after day. And if you've ever stood at a crossroads wondering whether you have the strength to do what's right, I hope you'll remember you're not alone. Thank you for listening to my story and for letting Lily and me share our journey with you. If it touched you, or if you have your own story to share, I'd love to hear from you. Take care of yourself and those you love.